Hello everyone and welcome back to Zero to Hero, episode 3 this time. The challenge where I go from level 1 all the way up to Keystone Hero on my Warlock. So let's get right into this week. So beginning of this week I was 392 and I have opened up my first vault, which actually ended up being quite disappointing. But every single thing here was champion gear, so it would be upgraded to the same eye level. So I picked the pants because that gave me the biggest eye level upgrade, which put me into 397. And of course the weekly quest is the Mythic Plus dungeon, which is amazing. We get a free heroic loot eye level, so we just jump right into doing some mythics. We started off doing a 7 Nefarian Slayer here. Now this run here very quickly highlighted what the issue of this week is going to be, which is of course the Afflicted, where you have to use a dispel to get them off so they don't throw off their haste debuff. And as a Warlock, you don't have anything to do with this. So I have to spell out many times during this run, during this week, if someone could actually please, help out with this affix. Because I can't do it. And I have to say that actually was a really tough going through. I have a really hard time feeling useless, and normally I'm playing classes that have some form of dispel or anything, but we managed to get through. It was definitely like a tough dungeon because multiple times these affixes did pop off, but worse is about to come. I did also try out Demonology just to try it, and I think, for the purpose of this video, as well as my own wanting to learn a spec, I think it's better just to stick with one, and I think that's going to be Destro Warlock, because honestly for me it feels much more suited for Mythic Plus than Demonology necessarily does. Also just does more damage when I'm doing it, so there's also that. We got through and we are at 748, so still a long way to go, but we're getting there. Next up is, of course, if you watched the previous video, you know how much I love Dragonflight Hollow. This run actually goes really smoothly, so nothing to complain about. The only thing is that on the first boss here, I was actually not really quite sure how to do my rotation, what was optimizing, because there are 3 targets, but I do have Havoc. So do I do I do Cleave, or do I just use Rain of Fire? And I actually end up not getting the full amount of my Havoc, which I think is the right choice. You use your Havoc, and then whenever that goes off, then you don't have it anymore, then you go back to your Rain of Fire to get all the targets. But that's something I need to practice a little bit more, and I actually do get more practice on it, especially how to navigate these different bosses. But the whole run goes really smoothly. And with that, I actually ended up deciding that I am actually going to craft my entire tier set just to get that extra, damage. And I have the gear and everything. So, and I have those tokens that we can use. But that leads us into Nefarious 11, which is going to go absolutely horrific. I actually, spoiler alert, I end up disbanding this group simply just because we are not gonna get through it. The problem here is again the affix. I don't pick, as I mentioned before in my previous video, I really try not to pick out super experienced or super overgeared people, because I want to play with people around my own gear level and stuff like that. But that also means that you get quite inexperienced players, and we had a healer who was struggling to get all of the affixes himself, which I don't blame him. I don't think that it's just a solely healer thing. I think it's everyone should get together. But we have a tank who's quite inexperienced, and we have a mage that we can't really communicate. I think he doesn't really speak English, but we're trying to tell him that, me and the warrior, because we can't do anything about it, and we're trying to tell him to please help the healer, but nothing happens. Every single time an affix they come up, at least 1 or 2 goes off, which means that we wipe here, because it does require a lot of healing, and we wipe here and we try and go again, and it doesn't work. And at this point I'm I'm looking at my solutions here. I could, it's 11, we would get through it, we might not time it, and I kind of want to time it, And I'm just like, at this point, like, I think it's stupid. Like, we won't work like this. Like, you need to, it's frustrating and it's painful and it's slow and it's just about, you know, respecting your own time. So I go out, I disband it, I say I'm sorry guys, but this is not gonna work. I find another group, this time like filled up with people with dispels, and everything goes so much smoother. And it's so much more fun to play like this. So I know there's like a huge, and I like had people disband in my previous video as well, where I was frustrated that they left. But for me, it's also about, I don't think this whole like disbanding or like even your group is black and white. I think sometimes it is fair to like call it quits, and I think it's really, really beneficial for your own sake and your own like enjoyment of the game, that you know when to throw in the towel, or when to say, okay, we're not gonna get through this, or I'm gonna try with a different group. Respect your own time as well. Don't be an asshole about it. Don't be a dick. Don't like flame the other people. Don't scream at them, tell them that they're idiots or whatever. No, just simply just say that this is not gonna work, and that you need to, that it's not gonna work, and respect your own time, because this is going so much smoother, and we're actually two-chesting it instead of not being able to time on 11, so I definitely don't regret my decision whatsoever. But this is a frustration point of this week. Simply just, I hate that I can't do anything with this affix. I really, really do. I generally, like, this has been a huge struggle for me. Not being able to, just feeling useless, or just feeling that, because it's a coin flip at this point. Like, you invite people in, and you invite them from their level and their radar IO score, but you have no idea if they're gonna do the affix or not. You have no idea about these pocs. It's a coin flip. And that honestly has been so far the closest I've been to like quitting this challenge and wanting to go over and play something like a tank, where you have a huge influence on the group. What you saw before there was just me bumping up my eye level, and here I'm in an Aphelion Slayer, where again the healer's absolutely carrying us. We do wipe here, and no hate towards the tank. He does own up to him, like he made some mistakes about his like defensive, but the healer absolutely carried us through here. Like, we were like, you see, we have 14 deaths, and the tank pulls so much, and I also wanted to like appreciate the heal a little bit. So I got a little bit tired of pucking, so I decided to go out and get some customization for my pets, and look at this. Yeah, absolutely so lucky, like 1.4%. Absolutely love having a mount that you can flex and other people want. And also just these like new customizations for the Warlock, like the Warlock pets, is so amazing. I love it so much. Really hope Blizzard adds more of this kind of stuff. But yeah, going into an Ultimate here, I kind of have the same goal as I had for last week, where I'm more focused on, getting geared up, and also just filling out all the spots and doing all the dungeons, at least on a tyrannical and stuff like that. So I'm in a 7 ultimate just to fill it out. And if you notice on our roster here, like our classes, we have a druid and a mage who can do it, and the mage is the group leader here. So I didn't actually make this group, and that's gonna be again a struggle. So these affixes are going to like go off a lot of the times, and the healer is, I say 70 or 80% of the time he is alone on this, which again, it sucks because no one. It's just not fun to play with this haste debuff, and like even if it's not dangerous, like in the lower keys, it still just absolutely sucks to play with it. But they are actually dangerous, and you see people are getting like super low here, but we do manage to get the boss, no problem. Going into the Lost Vikings here, I do actually end up pulling aggro and actually dying here and costing a battle res. And yeah, at this point I have to be honest, I was super frustrated and just tired. I think looking back at it, I should probably have waited a second before I just went into the Havoc burst, because also we're playing with a DK, and DKs are not really known for their damage output, so of course he's gonna struggle. But like again, with these affixes, just the fact that I can't do it myself and I'm reliant on other people, and I know how pucks are, but it's so terrible. Now healer actually ends up going down because of the affix going off, because of the haste buff. He can't get the healing, so I'm trying to and I feel like at this point, again, this was also like, is this group gonna get through it or not? All depends on like people pick up. But this wipe actually ends up being the one thing that actually makes the mage actually use his remove curse and actually gets them off. Still not always perfect, and we still get some off, but it's a lot better than just always having one going off. So we do actually end up timing it, but you can see we did struggle a lot through it, and yeah. So this was also like super painful week actually to get through. And then I went into a halls, and then again, this is all about like that when I meant with like the coin flip. Here we like only have a paladin, but he is so amazing at this job that he's just like, carrying us through this like affix. Like this event so extremely well, and the same here with the Freehold. Like pucking is such an extreme coin flip, and as a DPS play, you don't really have an influence on this. Honestly, this challenge I'm doing here, I think it's really good, but it's also just really making me want to play tank. Honestly, like going back to that, and I actually have been playing more tank during this like the last week and having so much fun. And this right here is something I need to stop doing. I try and guess where the tank is going, so I want to like preemptively throw my Havoc down, which means he doesn't go for that pull. And so I have to wait 11 seconds before I can do anything, because else I will pull a whole another pack in, and the tank actually ends up dying here, but makes it a really incredible recovery. You see everyone here like we are kiting, and Hunters are using his utility. I'm also trying to use like my stun, and like trying to like get like people like give the tank some time to get back and gather the aggro, and he actually really does. This is the thing, like if you have someone like on you like this, like right now I do, make sure to run into the tank. The tank has a million things to think about in this situation. He doesn't necessarily like have time or like maybe the mental like overview to like really like get the one from you and everything, especially if he doesn't have nameplate. So make sure to like stand at the tank, make it easier for him, to gather up the aggro. So with the Freehold on, we only need one more key, Underrot. And the thing about Underrot is such an interesting dungeon. It's definitely, if you have a coordinating like group, this dungeon is probably the easiest and like the hardest if you're like pucking. It reminds me a lot of like Court of Stars from last season, which I absolutely dreaded. And the thing about like Court of Stars and Underrot is, it's mechanical dungeons, meaning that if you know the mechanics and what you're supposed to do, then you will be fine and you will like absolutely trump it. But if you don't know the mechanics and you don't know the strategies here, it's you like don't learn them, then you just can't do it. You can't get through it, and this like becomes super clear on the second boss. Of course, the third boss with the mushrooms is also like you have to do it, but second boss is like, you know, the first run into this whole idea of like, well, it's the mechanics and not, you know, the damage that you do. And the reason why I want to highlight that is because we actually do end up wiping here on the first boss, simply because people are too much focused on their own damage and not picking up these, stepping on these worms or these ticks. Actually, damage doesn't really matter on this boss. I mean, of course it will, like in the later and higher keys, because the tantrum is going to do a lot of damage, but it's quite control damage, so like you don't really have to use defensives outside of tantrum, so you can actually, you know, survive a lot. But like, so the actually damage output, or like, you know, you don't really have to worry that much. What you have to worry about is simply just these ticks, because if they go off like they do right here, then there's nothing to do, and we end up wiping. And I tell the group, you know, because I do notice it here. It's the hunters group, and I do notice that, you know, he's quite low IO and no one else is like speaking, so I just point out that your damage doesn't matter, just make sure you step on the ticks and we will get through it. And as you see on your screen right now, we absolutely get through it, like no problem whatsoever. So yeah, that was basically the last dungeon for like this week, and let me tell you, this week has been like extremely difficult. Like, not only did I not personally have that much time to play myself, so I didn't really get to push as like much as I wanted to, which is unfortunately, but it was also just such a frustrating week with the whole affix. And like, I haven't really experienced that before, because I have played classes that had like some form of dispel or the curse or something that could like help out with, which makes it like a no problem. But we did push ourselves to like 410, 49, which I think is a really good like eye level to like really like, you know, start like going like aggressive and like actually pushing into the 15s and then into the 16s at almost 1300 score, which again, you know, as I mentioned, it's lower than, you know, what I actually like wanted to be at this point. But I do have next week with Tyrannical, where we have a bunch of like 2s and things under 10, so just pushing them up is gonna like really like push us far. But yeah, I really can't like pinpoint enough how frustrating this week has been and how much I need to deal with not having the things that I want to have on a class. And again, I think looking back at that's also, you know, something to consider when you're thinking about like, oh, do I want to main a warlock or something like that? It's, well, they do have these things, and they do have these weeks where it's honestly just awful. And I really wish the Blizzard would like make affixes that like everyone could deal with, and it just didn't fall into the healer or a selective group of classes can like deal with it. I don't think that's fun or a good playstyle. But besides the point. Thank you so much for watching, and catch me in the next episode where, yeah, we'll go back to Fortified and we'll get into the 15th, hopefully. Take care, everyone.